But I want to start by asking Mr. Carr a question. I asked Mr. Blanche about his recusal, his supposed recusal. I asked him if he talked to Mr. Terrell. He acknowledged that he did. I asked him if he was advised by Mr. Terrell. Did Mr. Terrell tell you that ethics laws and policies required that you not be involved in cases involving your prior representation of the president? His answer was yes. So in those three matters, the hush money payment case, January 6th case, Mar-a-Lago case, you were to recuse yourself. His answer was, I'm recused, correct? Well, by the way, he said the cases are not ongoing, Senator, but to the extent there's any work around those cases, yes, I'm recused. So then I brought up, and you must have watched the hearing, so you said to CPAC a couple months ago, the other things that are happening, there was not a single man or woman at the Department of Justice who had anything to do with those prosecutions, meaning the prosecution of the president. Now, you had something to do with those prosecutions, right?
I was a spokesman for the office.
For the Office of the Special Counsel.
Correct.
That was leading both of those investigations into Mar-a-Lago, the classified documents and obstruction case, as well as the January 6th case.
Correct.
So, by what he described to CPAC, you were included among those not left standing as a result of those firings. So I asked him, so you're saying that it's not a conflict of interest for you to be involved in the firing of prosecutors who prosecuted your client, your former client. There's no conflict there. Is that your, and his answer was no, there is. Basically, there is a conflict of interest. I wasn't involved. That would be a conflict of interest. But he fired you, right?
He signed my termination notice, yes.
He signed your termination notice. So he signed the termination of someone who worked on the prosecution of his former client and arguably his current client, Donald Trump.
Correct.
He signed the termination letters. Later, he told a Senate committee he had nothing to do with the firings. Then, at CPAC, he publicly celebrated that no prosecutors connected to his former client were still in place. 3 different stories. One person. Critics say this wasn't a simple mistake or a lapse in memory. It was a calculated contradiction. A former prosecutor who worked alongside him confirmed the signature on the documents, raising fresh questions about his testimony. The controversy doesn't end there. The same official has also faced criticism over an IRS agreement that a Florida judge reportedly described as a sham, along with decisions related to the handling of a convicted sex trafficker's case. As lawmakers continue pressing for answers, the debate is only growing louder. What do you think? Was this a contradiction, or is there another explanation? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more political updates.
Thank you, Senator Booker, for holding this hearing. Thank you all for testifying. And Mr. Carbone, I couldn't agree more. It's a staggering conflict of interest, self-dealing. I wrote down the 3 words that Blanche used to describe that IRS sham of a settlement. I think he said regular, typical, and I can't remember the third, but they were anything but accurate descriptors of that unique agreement, which, as the judge in Florida pointed out, has relief for people who are not even parties to the litigation, to the degree there was any litigation, with remedies that have nothing to do with the alleged offense, and uses such broad terms as to be really totally in the eye of the beholder. And I think Senator Cornyn was right. It was also quite striking that Blanche attributed to himself the power to speak for people on both sides of that agreement by saying that it was dead. How could he speak for the other side of that agreement? Well, because he was on both sides of the deal.
Blanche described the agreement as routine, but the judge strongly disagreed, arguing it granted benefits to people who weren't even part of the case and included provisions unrelated to the original legal dispute. Critics also questioned Blanche's decision to declare the agreement over on behalf of both sides, asking how one person could speak for opposing parties. They argue it reflects a broader pattern of conflicts of interest, pointing to his past role as defense counsel and his later position in government. According to critics, the same pattern appears elsewhere in the administration, where personal loyalty has at times been accused of taking priority over institutional independence. They say the issue is no longer about a single disputed decision, but about a series of actions that raise broader questions about accountability and public trust. What do you think? Is this evidence of a deeper pattern, or are these criticisms being overstated? Share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more political news and analysis.
I mean, it seems to me that was a pretty direct lie he told to our committee. Now, maybe he would quarrel with describing him as a prosecutor, but he wasn't quibbling over that when he was speaking to CPAC. He said no one involved in those cases is still remaining at the department. And when I asked him about taking credit for that, he said, no, that was just a statement I made. But wouldn't it also be a conflict of interest if that supposed tax agreement impacted Trump's potential liability for what had been mischaracterized as business payments? The hush money payments, according to the statement of facts in that indictment, were designed to conceal their true nature and in so doing mislead tax authorities. Wouldn't the signing of that settlement also impact his client potentially in that kind of a case?
I defer to the lawyers on the panel. I am not a lawyer, so.
Yeah.
Senator Schiff, I expect that the lack of transparency around Donald Trump's finances would, if reversed, reveal a lot of conflicts of interest. And I think you're absolutely right that the firing of U.S. attorneys or spokesmen, individuals who were involved in any way in those cases, was, as you seem to be suggesting, largely motivated by not wanting those individuals to be involved moving forward. I think a Department of Justice headed by Todd Blanche would have conflicts of interest and problems with regard to lawyers' ethics shot through it at every level, which is why my concern is that if recusal were done right in his case, he would be recusing from the vast majority of what the Department of Justice is currently.
During questioning, Blanche acknowledged that ethics guidance required him to recuse himself from matters involving his former client. He had also previously claimed at CAC that everyone involved in those prosecutions had been removed. But when confronted with the termination documents, his explanation appeared to change. He denied responsibility for the firings, creating what critics describe as a direct contradiction between his public statements and his testimony. The scrutiny goes beyond the personnel decisions. Critics argue that if the tax settlement affected payments previously tied to the case, it could raise new questions about whether Blanche became involved in matters he was expected to avoid under ethics rules. Supporters dispute those claims, but opponents say the growing paper trail raises serious concerns about accountability and possible conflicts of interest. Now the debate is shifting from what happened to whether the explanations given can withstand closer scrutiny.
I completely agree. Mr. Carr, if I could just return to you for a moment. He signed your termination. Are you aware of whether he signed any terminations involving any of the other members of Jack Smith's team?
I don't know. I did reach out to a few of them. Some of them were fired before he became a deputy attorney general. Others were fired after. So I don't know. I will say...
I would be very interested if any of your colleagues share with you. I think we would all be interested to know whether you're not the only one that he fired on the on the Smith team, or in any of the investigations that he is supposedly recused from. Mr. Carbone, I asked Mr. Blanche a question at the end of the hearing. It was kind of interesting because most of the fact-based questions I asked him, he dodged. The one more or less rhetorical question he really seemed determined to answer, which is, what happened to you? What happened to the Todd Blanche of the Southern District of New York, who was a respected prosecutor? You knew him, you worked with him. I understand from others in your old office that he was held in high regard. What do you think happened to him?
Well, Senator, you weren't in the room when I gave my opening remarks, but as I said, I worked closely with him. I personally liked him, I respected him, and I valued our relationship. He was a very affable prosecutor. He was fair-minded. He had a lot of good qualities. I don't know what happened to him. I do know what I see, and I can only judge his conduct. I have not had any extensive contact with him in the past year.
Carbonell wasn't speaking as an enemy of Todd Blanche. He described someone he once respected and enjoyed working with, a colleague he considered fair-minded and approachable. But according to Carbonell, that version of Blanche has changed. He suggested the shift wasn't sudden, but became clear when ambition and principle came into conflict. In his view, ambition won. Critics argue this reflects a broader pattern in government, where officials with strong reputations are increasingly judged by their loyalty rather than their independence. They point to figures like Pete Hegseth and Todd Blanche as examples of that trend, though supporters reject that characterization. For Carbonell, the hearing is no longer just about one individual's decisions. He says it's about what those decisions reveal regarding the values and culture of the institutions they represent.
It's been very fleeting, and I don't know what happened, but he certainly is not the person that I once worked with.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I mentioned this at the hearing. I don't think people change that much. I suspect it's more that we don't really know who they are until they show themselves, until they are forced to make a difficult decision between their ambition and their principles. And we've seen this. He's not alone in this. We've seen this from so many people who work in this building or the administration, who come to Congress or come to the administration as one person and seemingly transmogrify to something completely different. And I suspect that character flaw was there all along. They just never were forced to make the choices that reveal who they really are. The last question, Ms. Stein, and thank you so much for being here. I was struck by the completely anomalous behavior of Mr. Blanche going to interview one of the co-conspirators, the primary co-conspirator of Jeffrey Epstein, Maxwell. The fact that he seemed to take no one who really knew the facts of the case, which no self-respecting prosecutor would do, that he didn't challenge any of her many misrepresentations, and that magically she ended up in this prison camp afterwards, unsuited for a sex predator like her. How did victims feel watching that spectacle, that charade? What was that like?
Very difficult for us, as it would be very difficult for any victim of crime. Ghislaine Maxwell has shown herself to perjure herself in civil litigation, and it really wasn't lost on us that Mr. Blanche spent 9 hours, 2 days interviewing her, but for months and months and months, we couldn't get in front of the Department of Justice. And when we did, we had about an hour with Mr. Blanche, which was nothing in comparison. Maxwell's move to a low-security facility is unprecedented for anyone with a conviction that she holds. I mean, it's just unheard of. We are further concerned because this administration has not ruled out a pardon. This woman was convicted of sex trafficking.
Maxwell was interviewed for nearly 9 hours over 2 days, while many of her victims were given far less time to share their experiences. Critics argue that this difference reflects a troubling imbalance in how the justice system handled the case. They also point to other controversial decisions, including Maxwell's prison transfer and ongoing speculation about the possibility of a pardon, as reasons for questioning the Department of Justice's priorities. Supporters of the administration dispute those criticisms and maintain that legal decisions were made through established processes. Throughout the hearing, lawmakers connected several issues they believe show a broader pattern: the dismissal of prosecutors, disputed legal agreements, questions about conflicts of interest, and testimony they say contradicts the documentary record. For critics, the hearing was no longer about a single decision or one official. It became a debate over whether the justice system is applying the law equally to everyone. The hearing has intensified questions about accountability, transparency, and whether public trust in the Justice Department has been undermined.